Deep in the dense forests of eastern Poland, where morning mist drapes the ground in a cloak of quiet mystery, the tracks of wild boar carve into the soft earth, a silent reminder of a conflict that has lasted for generations. These creatures are not just strong and unpredictable, they devastate. Over 10,300 hectares of farmland fall victim each year, forcing families to claim millions in damages. For many farmers, it's not just the crops they lose, it's their livelihoods, their traditions, their way of life. Join Famigo Farm as we follow the trail of the animal considered the ultimate challenge of Europe's deep forests. In the dim light of early morning, as leaves stir softly and shadows glide beneath the mighty oaks, one question lingers. Are we controlling nature, or merely walking carefully through a wild power we have never truly understood? In less than a decade, Poland, once a nation built on fields of corn, potatoes, and barley, faced a dual crisis brought on by wild boar. Between 2010 and 2015, their numbers surged from around 118,000 to over 264,000. A population more than double meant destruction more than double, and sometimes even worse. Wild boar now account for 70% of all wildlife-related crop damage. But the numbers on paper tell only part of the story. The real damage is measured in fields torn apart, cornfields wiped out overnight, and farms losing months of hard work in a single night. The financial fallout is a vicious cycle. Over a 5-year national study, compensation for wild boar damage totaled 34.2 million euros, while revenue from wild boar meat sales barely reached 9.5 million euros. A gap that shows the system is paying out more than 3 times what it earns. During the 2017 to 2018 hunting season alone, compensation in forest farm regions rose to 19.78 million euros, an increase of over 17% in just 1 year. In Poland, the burden of payment does not fall on the state, but on hunting clubs under the Polish Hunting Association, PZL. Controlling wild boar is no longer just sport or ecological management. It has become a financial obligation, a race against nature itself, pitting the animal's rapid reproduction against humanity's ability to compensate for the damage. When national compensation rose to 23.7 million euros in 2019 to 2020 alone, one question looms. Can the current system keep up with the boar population explosion? Or is this just the tip of the iceberg? Crop damage and rising compensation costs might have seemed the final chapter in Poland's wild boar crisis. But in 2014, an even greater threat emerged, an invisible enemy capable of crippling the nation's entire livestock industry. In February of that year, African swine fever, ASF, was recorded for the first time in Poland. The virus crossed in from the eastern border, quickly hitching a ride with wild boar as they moved through forests and farmland. From a mere crop destroyer, wild boar became a reservoir for the virus and the main source of infection for domestic pigs, the backbone of a multi-billion-euro pork export industry. The speed of the spread stunned scientists. In 2020 alone, Poland reported over 6,000 wild boar testing positive for ASF. Each infected animal became a point of transmission, capable of carrying the virus dozens of kilometers without showing any obvious symptoms. Faced with this threat, epidemiologists had no choice but to set a risky yet unavoidable goal: reduce wild boar density to below 0.5 animals per square kilometer. An almost impossible target without strong intervention, because even a single sizable population can keep the virus alive and spreading further. From that point on, the fight against ASF became a national priority. It was no longer just about protecting crops, or reducing economic losses. This was a race against a virus capable of collapsing the entire livestock industry if left unchecked, a battle Poland could not afford to lose. Even as Poland recognized the full danger of ASF and set a goal to push wild boar populations to near zero levels, they still faced an even harder question. How do you track a pathogen that lurks silently in deep forests, spreading step by step with every move of a wild animal? Facing this threat, epidemiologists were forced to set a risky yet unavoidable goal: reduce wild boar density to below 0.5 animals per square kilometer. An almost impossible target without strong intervention, because even a single sizable population can keep the virus alive and spreading further. From that moment, the fight against ASF became a national priority. It was no longer just about protecting crops or minimizing economic losses. This was a race against a virus capable of collapsing the entire livestock industry if left unchecked, a battle Poland could not afford to lose. That's when passive control measures were put into place. Efforts that, though quiet and unseen, formed the backbone of the fight against the virus. The most crucial measure is surveillance. Across the sprawling forests of eastern Poland, patrol teams carry out passive monitoring, collecting every wild boar carcass for testing. Each animal found becomes a marker on the epidemiological map, showing where the virus is active and where it might spread next. Alongside this is active surveillance. Wild boar that are hunted are sampled immediately, providing critical data to help experts determine whether the virus has crossed natural boundaries. Together, these two methods form an early warning system, giving farmers and farms the chance to defend themselves in time. All of these measures, surveillance, testing, barriers, form a wide-reaching line of defense. But a harsh reality soon became clear. The virus still gets through. Wild boar reproduce too quickly, adapt too well, and move too freely. Each time their density is reduced slightly, it doubles again in the next breeding cycle. With such a gap between the virus's spread and human intervention, Poland was forced to adopt a more drastic approach. As Poland shifted from sustainable management to rapid population control, field approaches changed as well. The most efficient hunting tactics were deployed, creating a systematic campaign where each method played a role in quickly reducing wild boar numbers. Among these, the fastest and most effective method was large-scale driven hunts. Driven hunts, also known as batu, became the engine of Poland's entire wild boar control campaign. This method delivers large numbers of animals in a very short time, and is especially effective during winter months, when thinning foliage allows hunters to see farther and spot targets more clearly. On the ground, teams of hunters, beaters, and hunting dogs move systematically through wide swaths of forest, driving wild boar from their hiding places. Ahead, marksmen are stationed at strategic points, calculated along the natural escape routes of the herds under pressure. Here, everything happens quickly. Shots at close to medium range, a controlled but relentless rhythm, producing the highest efficiency of any method Poland employs. For a campaign that demands speed and precision, The driven hunt is an irreplaceable spearhead. Yet even a powerful spearhead cannot curb the nearly explosive reproductive rate of wild boar. Poland had to add another layer of intervention, attacking the source of the outbreak directly. No matter how strong, the push of the driven hunt cannot outpace the almost limitless reproductive instinct of wild boar. To curb the wild boar's exceptional reproductive rate, Poland needed an intervention that struck at the heart of the problem. Targeted culling focuses directly on the core issue, the reproductive capacity of wild boar. When ASF outbreaks occur, all restrictions on sex and age are lifted. Hunting teams are allowed to remove sows and even piglets year-round, a game-changing shift in Poland's wild boar management. Targeting this high reproductive group not only reduces numbers immediately, but more importantly, disrupts the herd's recovery cycle, a cycle that could otherwise undo control efforts in just 1 or 2 breeding seasons. In a context where wild boar reproduce faster than almost anywhere in Europe, targeted culling acts as the safety valve of the entire campaign. It ensures that the gains achieved through driven hunts, a method delivering broad, rapid pressure, aren't wiped out by the species' extraordinary reproductive rate. This final layer of strategy is decisive in stabilizing population reductions over the long term. The simultaneous deployment of large-scale driven hunts has produced unprecedented wild boar harvests, maintaining continuous pressure on population densities across affected regions. In many areas, the number of animals removed each season has far exceeded pre-ASF levels, demonstrating the tangible effectiveness of this multi-layered approach. But this success comes with a significant challenge. Even with dramatically higher wild boar harvests, Poland must continue to contend with ASF. This reflects the virus's uniquely persistent nature, a pathogen that can survive for long periods in the environment, spread through carcasses, vehicles, and even soil and mud. Success cannot come from reducing wild boar numbers alone. It requires ongoing coordination between hunters, farmers, and national veterinary authorities. Each plays a part in a larger defensive system, working together to keep the virus in check. By the end of this chapter, the picture becomes clear. The hunting strategies Poland employs are not merely sport or population management. They have become a tool of public policy, a national-scale intervention designed to tackle both the veterinary crisis and prolonged economic losses. In the absence of a vaccine or cure for ASF, hunting has become the most critical line of defense remaining. Ultimately, the story from Poland reveals an undeniable truth. When nature falls out of balance and disease escapes control, decisive measures, even if controversial at times, become the only option to protect agriculture, the economy, and a nation's biosecurity. The fight against ASF reminds us that wildlife management is not just an ecological issue. It's a question of collective responsibility, where science, policy, and field action must work together to be effective. And the greatest lesson is this: a crisis is never solved with a single measure. It requires collaboration, persistence, and a deep understanding of how humans interact with the natural world. If you want to continue exploring real-world stories about wildlife management, modern conservation strategies, and the challenges facing global agriculture, follow and join us. Every view, every share helps bring these important stories closer to those who need to know them.